Hi, everyone. Welcome, welcome. Just to test it out to make sure you guys can hear me, can you just put in the chat bar where you're dialing in from today? Just so we're waiting while other people joining us in and to make sure the sound is working. Car, that's wonderful. Please drive safe if you are dialing in from the car. And I'll just make sure a couple of other things are working fine. Have a look. Outside Hell's Pizza. That's wonderful. Oh, sounds like I've got a good crew tonight. I love doing this webinars because every time there's a different crowd that comes in. Oh, you're a passenger. Oh, that's good. Okay. Just waiting for a few more people to join us. And just to make sure the sound and camera is working as well, actually, can you tell me that you can see me? I hope you can see me. Fantastic. Okay, you can see and hear me. You can see me. Yes. Awesome. Great job. I'm going to run through. Can't type, obviously. Okay. I'm going to read out things that you guys are saying. So make sure you don't say anything inappropriate because I'll just read it on autopilot. For those that know me, can you please put a Y, so like a yes? For those that don't know me and seeing me for the first time, can you please put an N? So then I know how many people are here that know me and don't know me. Oh, cool. We've got some newbies. Woohoo! It's always fun to have new people. Great job. Nice. Fantastic. Now, I am also streaming live on YouTube. So if you know any of your friends, oh, hi, Matt. Hope you can see me. If you've got any friends that are not able to come through Zoom or have not registered on time on Zoom, feel free to send them to YouTube as well. Oh, hi, Nicola. Good to see you here. Cool. Got a few people that don't know me. So thank you. Welcome. Fantastic. We are going to kick in shortly. But before we do that, I'll press a button. We're going to start recording. And hopefully we get in. Awesome. Well, welcome everyone. I am about to take you on a journey on how to buy your investment property with no deposit. I know it sounds too good to be true, right? And there is a lot of webinars out there at the moment. There's a lot of information on where to buy, what the property market is doing, etc. But not many webinars that actually teach you the essentials. Oh, hold on. Just to test it out. Oops. Finally, YouTube has gone online at the same time as me. That was freaky, hearing myself again. Yeah, so basically this webinar is created for people that want to learn how to fish because I learned how to fish. I didn't know how to fish, right? I learned how to fish, and that's what helped me to build the property portfolio that I have today. And now I'm on a journey to help other people to get ahead and to get what they want in life, to build that wealth, to build a generational wealth as well. By generational wealth, I mean, if you've got children, you want to leave something behind for them. If you don't have the children, you may want to leave something behind for your nephews and nieces and whoever. But the main thing is, how do you live your life and not suffer? How do you enjoy your life by making sacrificing right now when you're probably young and healthy and in your prime of earning age, so then you can enjoy and retire early if you can do so. So for those that are joining in, because I can see some people jumping in just now. Hi, Hamish. Hi, Jim. we're just about to pop in. So if you can hear me, can you please put something in the chat bar just to make sure that I'm not talking into abyss. So for those newbies that just joined in, awesome, fantastic. Thank you, guys. Now, couple of housekeeping rules. So there is a chat bar, as you can see. If you want everyone to see what you're saying, you can change the settings that says to everyone, not just to hosts and panelists, but to everyone. So then everyone can actually see what you're saying. So it doesn't look like I'm talking to myself. So you can change the settings there. But if you don't want people obviously to see, and if you just want to address your messages to me, absolutely fine. Be my guest. So you can do host and panelist only. So only I can see it then. And for those that do want to ask questions through the webinar, there is a Q&A button as well. If you ask your question in there, I will definitely see it at the end, because with the chat bar, it may get busy on the side, so I may lose some of your questions. So if you do have a question that you do want to ask, please use the Q&A button, and then we can go through that. Yes, you can. Yes, you can. Okay. So I'm going to share my screen, and we're going to kick into the presentation, and away we go. So save your questions for the Q&A button or until the end, and I promise we will have some time to address them. Fantastic. Let's get it on. Let's get it on. Okay. Here we go. Okay. Can you guys see my screen? No? Yes? No? Yes? Not yet? No? Okay, that's concerning. Yes? Some people can see it and some people can't. If you're on your phone, I don't know how it works, so don't ask me. But if you're on your computer, you should be able to. So I've just shared my screen. Maybe it's still coming. Can you please let me know if you can see my screen? Because it is important. There will be a couple of questions that there will be a couple of things that we'll cover off, and you will need piece of paper and pen. So please grab some piece of paper and pen, and we will cover it off. Okay. Cool. Majority of you can see me. I'm sorry, Hamish. I don't know what to do there for you. maybe try. Yeah, I don't know if barking will help. Fantastic. So let's jump in. Before we start, is there anyone that already has one property? If you've got one, can you put in the chat bar one? If you've got more than one, put the number that you've got. How many properties do you have right now? Okay, lots of ones. Fantastic. And obviously you're here to learn how to buy your second. That's awesome. Cool. Alrighty. So I've prepared this webinar, as I mentioned to you earlier, is if you want to learn the basics of property investing. All right. This is to teach you how to fish. This is to give you the tools. And a lot of my other, people in the industry, other counterparts, advisors, etc., they said to me, aren't you afraid that you're going to teach people these things and they're not going to use your services? They're going to go directly to the bank and get a mortgage. Because obviously we as mortgage advisors, we get paid when you get a loan. So if you don't get a loan through me, I don't get paid. I don't fear that, because I believe if I can teach you the right information, if I can teach you the right tools and how to calculate your own equity, etc., you will know and you will come to me, hopefully, and you will use my services. And if you don't, well, hey, cool. If you're going directly to the bank, that's absolutely fine as well. But at least this way, you will be educated and you will know what to do. And over time, people that come on this, they want specific advice. Now, remember, this presentation is for educational purposes only, and it should not in any way be taken as specific financial advice. If you do want specific financial advice, please come and see me or go and see your banker. Appointments with me are absolutely free of charge. We don't charge you any fees at all for this information. So if you do want to use my services, feel free to do so. So let me tell you a little bit about myself. Obviously, for those that are meeting me for the first time, my name is Ibuni Salimova. I am a real life investor. I have investment portfolio, and my goal in life is to help you to become one too. Over the years, I've won numerous awards that you can see or you can Google. I don't like to brag too much about myself, but this is just to put it out there for you to understand that what I'm talking about is I know what I'm talking about. I walked this journey. I'm still walking on this journey. I love property and try to learn from people that know what they're talking about. That's the only thing I can say in life, what I've learned. When I was in the beginning of my journey, unfortunately, I didn't have those people around me and I had to learn the hard way. I had to do lots of different courses. I had to ask lots of different questions from lots of different people. But here you've got me now to help you out with your questions in life. And look, I may not know it all. We're not perfect, but at least I know just a little bit more than your average person. And I'll show you later why I'm saying that. So if you're here to buy your second home, stay with me. We will talk about how where to buy and how to add value to the properties that you've got. So what I want to tell you about is a couple of my clients. One of them is Carl. Actually, he was going to jump in tonight on this call and share his experience. Unfortunately, or fortunately, and learn from Carl, he's doing a double shift at work. This man is legend. He bought his first home with 10% deposit, right? And he absolutely persevered and he wanted more. He knew that growing up with no house, living in rentals was not something he wanted to do for the rest of his life. So when he was able to get together 10% deposit, off he went and bought the first home. And then from there, it absolutely catapulted him to buy the rest of the properties. He was really lucky around COVID time. Right before COVID, we caught up with Carl and he bought his second property, and then I helped him to buy his third. And just recently, he bought another house. So Carl is absolute legend in my eyes because this guy has what it takes. And he's got the drive, he's got the perseverance, he's got the hardworking ethics in him. And when I messaged him and I said, Carl, would you like to come on this webinar and share your experience? He said, absolutely, yes, but I'm working double shifts and it's going to be crazy leading up to Christmas. So this guy takes any opportunity to make money. And what he does with that money is obviously reinvesting it back into the properties. And I will teach you how he's done it by using his first home, how he's leveraged off the rest of the property. The second legend that I had over time is Adam. Adam and his family, I pretty much helped, I think, most of his family by now. Really cool family, from mom and dad to Adam to his other siblings that I've helped over the years. Is again same set skills, of hard work, perseverance. Adam is actually a pilot overseas, and he came to me a few years ago, wanted to buy his first home in New Zealand. He's got already properties overseas, but in New Zealand, he needed at least 35% deposit. So we managed to get that across for him. And then he came a little bit later on. He's like, look, I need to get another property because I can see where the property market is heading. Now's a good time to buy. The property market has sort of slowed right down. Can I buy another house? Did some quick numbers with Adam, and it appeared that yes, absolutely, we were able to squeeze in another property for him. And at the moment, we're actually talking about third property for Adam. One of the things he was maximizing on that I would like to share with you is looking at properties that have bigger sections. So this is something I also did in my strategy of property investment, is get a house on a big piece of land that you can subdivide. Even if you don't subdivide, but if you can put a second dwelling on it, immediately you're going from one rental to two rentals, from one stream of income to two stream of incomes. But if you can subdivide, even better. And that's what I've done in some of my cases as well, where I've subdivided the property, sold off one, so either an empty section or a section that has a house on it, and then put another house on that empty section. So that way you're getting either some money back through selling that property. And yes, you do have to pay tax, etc. And again, I will cover that off if you stay with me. But this way, you're making your money work smarter for you. Now, the next couple that absolutely puts smile on my face every single time I talk about them is this legend here. And again, same set of skills is hard work, dedication, and no sleep, probably. They've got a couple of children as well. And again, they bought their first property first property was 10% deposit. And then the second property was at the time when you needed 35% deposit. And then we ended up buying them another property with no deposit. So these guys have worked hard, saved money for the first home. So if you're on this call and you already have one house, well done. The hardest job is done. It's basically like when you have children, the first child is the hardest. The second one you gets a little bit easier. And then the more kids you have, in my experience, the easier it gets sometimes. So for those that don't know on this call, I actually have few children. You may guess, if you don't know me, you may put in the chat bar to guess how many kids I have. But in terms of property, very similar concept. Basically, the first one is hard, and then it gets easier and easier and easier. But these guys actually took up a notch. They decided to buy a commercial property. And again, the rules for the commercial properties are very different to residential. So when you're thinking about your investment portfolio, investment journey, where do you want to be in life, you can also consider, do I want to just go retail, retail properties as we call them? So just normal residential investment properties, or do you also want to invest into commercial? Commercial can be great and wonderful, but can also be a little bit harder to manage in the long run. Maybe not, depends. But Danny, he is a mechanic and he wanted to buy a workshop. And therefore, when the opportunity came up for him to buy the workshop that he was working in, he managed to buy the workshop as a mechanic plus the building itself because he didn't want to pay the lease on that property. So just to break it up a little bit for you guys to think about. So roughly we've got over 5 million people in New Zealand, and only 500,000 of them own a property, roughly. And then from there, we've got about 250 people that own 3 to 20 properties. So as you can see, the proportion of people that own a property plus few properties versus the actual population is absolutely incredible. And it opens up two doors of opportunities here for you. If you only have one property at the moment, well done, you've made it to the stats. But also imagine how many properties out there that you could potentially get into to build your investment portfolio from there onwards. And the reason I also mentioned here that only 50% of those properties are actually managed by a property manager. And again, we will circle back to that because having a property manager is one of those debatable questions, whether you should have one or not. But we'll have a look at it. So what do these people know that you don't know at the moment? What did I teach them when they first came to me, when they only had one property or no property? What did I teach them that I'm about to teach you, that they know now how to use, how to calculate their own equity? Let's have a look. So the first thing I mentioned to you a few times now, it's equity. You gotta understand where you stand. All right, you've got to understand how much your property is worth right now, how much available equity you have. And don't confuse it with just normal equity. It's available equity that we're interested in. You also have to understand how much income you're bringing in or how much the property income is coming in. You also got to understand where you want to invest. And the reason I'm saying that is because the difference can be significant. You also got to understand that you can't do this alone, right? Just like anything in life, you got to have a team around you. Yes, it's wonderful if you think that you're a lone wolf and you can do it all by yourself. Absolutely great. However, when you want to get into the investment property, you got to start being serious. You got to understand what you're going to do in life is going to affect the rest of your life. So you got to have a proper plan in place. So a lot of you are sitting there probably going, how do I calculate my equity? Now, for those that are sitting on this chat tonight, do you know how to calculate your equity right now? Yes or no? Put it in the chat bar for me. Okay. Some answers flowing in. So, okay, you know how to calculate your equity. Great. Okay. Okay. Awesome. Awesome. Fantastic. So, well, what I would like you to do now is grab a piece of paper and pen. I love teaching, by the way, for those that can't tell this yet. Should have been a teacher in my other life. Grab a piece of paper and write down, what do you think your property is worth right now? Right? Write down, how much do you think your property is worth? I'm going to give you an example here, and then you can recreate this example for your property. So let's say an average house, if you guys are up in Auckland, etc., 1 million, right? We'll take a house of 1 million, and your current mortgage is 500. So loanable equity is 80%. Does any of this make sense to you so far? Do these numbers make sense to you? Let me know. The reason I'm asking is because not many people understand that the way bank calculates your equity is completely different to how you would calculate your equity. Some of you are replying to me that the equity is about 500, which is not. Obviously, yes, if you sold your house for 1 million today, yes, you will walk away with 500K in your pocket as cash. But when we're trying to calculate your equity in order to buy the next property, it's completely different formula. So what you got to do is you got to go 80% of 1 million. So we can give you a mortgage up to 80% of your property value. So if your house is worth 1 million, we can go up to 800,000 for a mortgage. And if your mortgage is already 500, we take away that 500. So you left with 300K. So 300K is your available equity to repurpose. So this is where no deposit comes in. This is how you use your no deposit. 300K available in your house right now to be repurposed for the next property. So if you're out there doing your own numbers, let me know again privately if that worked out for you or not, or how much available equity you've got right now. And if you haven't figured out, let me know again and we can do this together. So you can write it down. This is for you to use in the future. Available equity is loanable equity, take away mortgage. So available usable equity is the key word here. So it's not just the equity if you've sold your house for 1 million, walked away with 500K cash. No, it's you still got a mortgage with the house, but you can only lend up to a certain percentage with the bank. All right. So in this scenario, what we're going to look at, let's say you've got 300K available equity. At the moment, the rules are you need to have at least 30% deposit for an investment property. You need only 20% deposit if it's a new build. So this is where you got to think about your options. You know, do you want to buy an older property or do you want to buy a new build? For this purpose, let's pretend that you're buying an older property. So you can only buy one house at 1 million. And remember, available equity doesn't mean you've got that in cash. So when you're buying a property at 1 million, you got to borrow the whole million. There are so many cases when people get themselves confused at this point, and they think because they've got 300K available equity, they only need to borrow 700 to buy a house at 1 million. No, available equity is still being borrowed from the bank. So if you're buying a property at 1 million, you have to borrow the whole million. So make sure when you're calculating your repayments, you are calculating the whole million and not just 700. Or you can buy two houses at 500K each. So this is again where the advice of a mortgage advisor or other professionals may come handy. Should you just buy one house at $1 million or two houses at 500K each? And case in point, just today in my office, I had this lovely gentleman. He was told that there was an amazing investment, this apartment block, Ellerslie, Auckland. He bought it in at about 950K. And now he's very upset because he realized he could have actually bought two properties that would bring in more income and probably over time, maybe not, grow bigger in value. Let's say at 500K each in Live-in, he could have bought a proper house on a 1,000 square meter section versus he bought studio apartment. And yes, it is Auckland, etc. But his big goal is to sell it in a few years' time and be mortgage free. So it depends, which way it will go for him. But he didn't realize he could buy two at 500 versus one at $1 million. So this is something for you to take away today, if anything, as a lesson in life, really. Have a proper advice and weigh up your options. So a lot of you would probably sit there and wonder, what's the best return on rental? And this is something that I cover off a lot with my clients. So before they commit to whether 1 million to 500, we'll look at the returns. And again, get your piece of paper ready and a pen. I will teach you a formula that you can use in the future. What you normally do is, and you probably would hear it a lot in all sorts of platforms out there, is about rental yield, right? What's the rental yield? What's the return that you need to have? And ideally, we say at least 5% or more as a rental return. So basically, like if you put money in a savings account, you look at the interest rate, right? What you're getting in return. Same as the properties. If you're spending this much, how much are you getting back in return? In simple words. And if we take an example of a 500K property, weekly rent of 500, you're getting about $26,000 annual return. Who can tell me what's the yield on this type of property? Can you put in the chat bar for me, please? If you know how to calculate the yield, what's the percentage I'm getting here? If I've got a property at 500K, weekly rent of 500, what's my yield? Absolutely no idea. Awesome. This is why you're here tonight. So the reason I'm saying get a pen ready, because I'm about to give you a formula you can use for the rest of your life. You guys don't need me then, really. So we take annual rent, divide by the house price, right? Multiply by 100. So this is your percentage that you get back. So 5%. So you're getting a 5% return annually on your money that you've invested. And let's say at the moment people will say, well, why should I buy a property? Term deposits are giving me, 5.5%. Remember, term deposits go up and down with OCR. At the moment, we're seeing drop in interest rates. We're seeing OCR dropping, and the losers are the ones that have term deposits. So the term deposit will also drop. Properties tend to increase in price, right? Today, the property is 500. Tomorrow, it may be 600. Therefore, your yield increases. And the weekly rent increases, your yield increases. So this is a formula to use for you in the future. So we're taking annual rent, divide by the house value, multiply by 100. Nicola, I hope you got it now. Cool. Now, let's, now that you know the formula, I'm going to make you use your brain now and tell me, what do you think the yield is if you buy a $1 million property? What do you think the yield will be? Throw it in. No, it's just water. Thank you. For those that are wondering what's in this cup. Come on, guys, give me an answer. What do you think the yield is if you're buying a property at 1 million and you've got 900 per week return? Now that you know how to use the formula, don't let me hanging. Nice. Good job, Nicola. Look at you. 5 minutes ago, you didn't know how to even calculate that. Fantastic. Good job, Hamish. Oh, you guys making me proud. I feel like a good teacher. Oh, it was Craig. Sorry. Sorry, Craig. I love it. Well done. 4.68. Good job. So as you can see, this is how you get numbers. You don't get attached to investment properties with your heart. Because remember, when you were buying your first home, you were probably walking in, looking at the kitchen, looking at the paint colors, going, oh, this is beautiful, or this is awful, and I'll repaint the whole thing. You were getting attached with your heart. When you're buying an investment property, if I can teach you something tonight for you to walk away with, don't get attached with your heart. Look at the numbers. All right. It's purely based on numbers. Any investment properties out there will tell you the same thing. Yes, of course, you want to buy a nice home for someone else to live in. That's a fact. I'm not arguing that point. What I'm arguing is don't get attached with it as your own, because it's much harder to manage a property if you're emotionally attached to it. Trust me, I've been there. So, one thing I like to play the game with is what sort of investor are you? Are you income driven, or are you wait and see type of guy? And I will explain to you further what it means, because there are two types of different investors. We've got people that may chase bigger returns right now, or we have people that may want to buy something, sit on it, in hope that it will go up in value because they've heard that the new road is going through, or there is a big factory being built that will bring more jobs and therefore the property demand, etc. So you got to understand the property market, you got to understand where you're buying, but you also got to understand what sort of investor you want to be. And the income-driven ones are usually the ones that buy apartments, for instance. The apartments might give you a much higher return, but they don't tend to go up in value as fast. And the wait and see type of people are the ones that will buy somewhere, as I just mentioned, the areas of growth, but over time. So it may not give you the higher return like the one before, like let's say border house. Once upon a time, I had an opportunity. Well, I was told of an opportunity to buy a border house, and there would be like 10 rooms, and you could rent out at $400 a room each. Imagine that, the instant return you could get, and the house was only like 500K at that time. The return would have been amazing. However, this was not the strategy I wanted to take in life, because for me, I believed I want to buy a house that will be nice for a family to live in, not something that will cause me lots of headache. Because managing 10 rooms in one border house would be much harder. And yes, I wouldn't be managing it myself. There will be a property manager, but still, that's a risk I didn't want to take at that time. Now, there are some places you can get that also are fantastic Airbnbs, but they may not be good houses to have long term. They may be fantastic by the beach, in and out, but they may not give you the same return if you were to rent it out per week. So always weigh up your options and see which way you want to go. Some people also chase new builds. So for instance, they would say, I only want to invest into new builds only, and that's it. Again, because of maintenance, you don't need to have any maintenance on a new build. Or some people may say, I only want to buy in this area of New Zealand and not that area. Just figure out what sort of investor you want to be, what sort of things you want to buy. I personally don't believe in apartments in New Zealand. I'm a bit biased. I think coming from Tajikistan, for those that don't know where I'm from Tajikistan. In Tajikistan, we've got lots of high rises, we've got lots of apartments. We have experience of building them. We know how to build them properly. Well, at least especially in Soviet times, we knew how to build apartments properly. When I first came to New Zealand, I was blown away by the low quality of apartments in New Zealand. They tend to be leaky. They tend to have lots of maintenance required to them. There's body corp cost. and just annual cost that you need to upkeep the apartment. And that's something that puts me off the apartments. Yes, they give you really good return, but overall, I believe apartment as an investment, for me personally, is not the right choice. And through the years in my career, I have seen people, I have seen clients that have apartments and the headache that it's cost them as well. Because also remember, apartments don't go up in value as fast as the houses. And therefore, if you wanted to build your portfolio and use the equity in your house to buy your third property or fourth property, apartment may not be the right tool to get you there. So just think of that as well. Now, when it comes the time to sell your property or to understand what else you can do, one question I always ask of people is, what's more certain in life than death? Is really tax implications in New Zealand. So the tax implications in New Zealand that you got to understand as well as a property investor. When you sell a property within a certain period of time, there may be tax that you need to pay. And also when you have rental properties and you've got income coming in from rental properties, you also have to pay tax on that because that's income, right? You're currently paying tax on your income. It's the same. So getting rent is income. Now, a lot of people are scared of paying tax if they want to buy a house, renovate, sell it, get quick cash. And this is something I've done as well, where bought a house, renovated, sold it. You just have to register a company, pay tax, like part of life. So this is something, again, I do numbers with my clients where if you can buy a property right now, especially good timing to buy, renovate, add value to it, in 6 months' time, you sell it off, you made 100K. Okay, well, you paid 30% in tax, that's 30K gone, but you've made 70K that you wouldn't have made otherwise. So just think about it from that angle, that yes, it hurts to pay tax, but you can actually make money on it as well. So something to consider down the track. And good news that happened this year is the bright line tax went down from 10 years to 2 years. So for those that are investment property gurus, they're buying properties and they want to hold on to it, after 2 years, you may be able to sell it and not pay any tax on it. Again, I'm not a tax accountant. Please engage proper people for this. But this rule just came out this year, which was absolutely amazing for a lot of investors. And the other thing that you got to remember, if you're selling your own property, so if you've lived in this property and you're selling your own or occupied property, it is tax exempt. So you won't pay any tax, even if you've sold it within the 2-year period. You may not be eligible to pay tax for it, which is really good news for those that want to sell their own house. So don't worry about sitting there for 2 years. You can sell it sooner if you need to. Now, let's uncover a little bit about the rental income tax and how do you normally calculate it. So a couple of things you can take away from it is rental expense. Rental expense is something you can claim to offset the income that you're getting. And this can be maintenance on a house that you've done. It may be even travel to inspect the property yourself if you're inspecting it yourself, etc. Again, get proper accounting advice, but this is something for you to remember, that you have to actually do yearly tax returns on it. You can't just pretend that income doesn't exist. So in order to calculate your yearly tax return, you got to take away rental expenses from your gross rental income. Hopefully that's been helpful as well. Welcome to write it down if you want to. You can go from there. Now, property management is something that people often ask me. Should I engage a property manager or should I manage myself? Now, guys, I'll tell you, I've got over 5 properties at the moment on the go, and there's no way that I would be able to manage them myself. I do not have the time for it. I lead a busy life. I've got 4 children. I've got a successful mortgage advisory business that I'm running, and on top of everything else that I'm juggling, do I have the time to do a proper job by my tenants? Not at all. This is someone else's full-time job. You pay money for someone to look after your property, to find you tenants, good tenants, to do credit checks on those tenants, to look after the property, to do inspections every 3 months. And a lot of people umming and humming whether they should get a property manager or not. Look, the first property I had as an investment property, I managed it myself, and it's great, right? One property, easy. When I lived in the same town around the corner. However, it was still annoying to be, called on a weekend, for instance, if something happened to the property, or a tenant lost keys and can't get in, or the light bulb is not working, etc. So for the price that you pay to the property managers and the life that you can gain back and what you do with those hours, you got to calculate your cost. If you are a high executive working in the office earning $100 an hour, paying your property manager a small commission is not the end of the world. That will cover 2 or 3 hours of your work. So this is how you can always look at things. But in order for you to understand how much the property managers actually charge, is the formula here for you. So you take the rent, multiply by their commission rate. Easy as that. So all property managers are usually different. They can charge between 7% to 10% commission rate. Again, talk to them. Find the one you click with. Get reviews on them. Because every property manager is different. It's very unregulated industry at the moment. They don't have to be fully qualified to be a property manager. Any of you guys can become a property manager if you wanted to, which is really scary if you think about it. If you're a doctor, if you're a GP, and your skill is healing people, treating people, what sort of property manager are you going to be? Like, if you have no idea about properties. So this is very, very scary idea for me that this industry is not regulated. But again, yeah, ask your property manager if you are looking to get one, because again, this is a cost you can offset in your annual return. So you don't have to pay such a huge tax. This is something you can take it off. So let's say on average, the property manager charges you between 7 to, as I said, 10%. Let's take this example of $400 a week per rent, multiply by 7.66. You pay them $30 a week to manage your property. So again, if you think about it, for most of you, it's your 1 hour of work time. I mean, if you're earning less than $30, you should really look at changing jobs, maybe, unless you really, really love your job, not judging. But if you know what I mean, like you've got a property manager is managing it for you for $30 an hour, a week. Why not? That saves you being woken up in the middle of the night when something urgent happens. That saves you from getting a phone call on the weekend saying, hey, the fuse just blew up. Can you get me a tradie? Because remember, most of the tenants will rely on you to fix those things for them. They will not go out there and call a tradie. They will rely on you to do it for them. So think about this cost when you're doing your budget. Because again, I forgot to mention in the beginning, some of the things I teach my clients is having a proper budget in place. If you don't have a proper budget in place for your first home, you should definitely have a budget for at least your second property or even third. And the budget will cover things like, okay, if I'm buying a property for this much, what will be my home loan repayments at the highest rate? So we calculate your home loan repayments at 7 or 8% at the moment. What will be your insurance cost on the property? What will be your council rates on the property? And add in a property management fee as well. So don't forget to do that. So remember, with the fees that I've just mentioned, you can offset them off your annual income. So just to remind you again about the budget, we're looking at your rates, insurances, property management fees, future renovations and upkeep, and account for untenanted times. a lot of my investors, what I set them up with is a flexi facility or overdraft facility, as we call them, and we allow at least 6 months of rent available in that account. So that's account for you not to touch. That's account if things go haywire, if they go south, if things don't go well, you don't have a tenant, but you still have to pay your mortgage. This is your base to pay your mortgage out from. Again, this is a strategy I do with my clients. I'm happy to sit down with any of you and talk about how to set up in the right way that will work for you in the long run. The other thing you got to understand is where to look. And again, as I said to you in the beginning, there are lots of webinars at the moment that are giving you statistics, right? But you probably sitting in those webinars wondering where they're getting their numbers from. And again, my job tonight is to be more of a teacher and teach you how to fish. These are probably the websites they're getting their numbers from. So CoreLogic is a big one in New Zealand. Again, you can write down these places, corelogic.co.nz, Property Value. You can go on all those websites. You can get all the stats. You can get all the data. Tenancy One, absolutely amazing. So if you, let's say, if you're sitting in Auckland and you want to buy somewhere in Dunedin and you have no idea what the rent is doing in Dunedin, go on to tenancy.govt.nz, type in the area you're interested in. It will bring up the average rent in that area. Obviously, you would still want to engage property managers, etc., to find out the real cost of that particular house, but at least it gives you an idea of the average cost. Okay, so those 4 websites are usually a good idea to go around, do a bit of snooping around and checking out how much things cost. As I mentioned to you before, a couple of great things happened this year, and also one of them is great, one of them is not. The great thing here is that the LVR has increased to 70% for investors. So remember in the beginning, I said to you, you got to have 30% deposit. This is what I was referring to. So from 1st of July this year, the government has changed the rules. Before it was 40, then we changed to 35, now we're back to 30. So all you got to have is 30% deposit or equity available in your home to buy your next property. The bad thing that happened was DTI. DTI stands for debt to income ratio. So it means that you can only borrow up to 7 times of your salary, of your income. And sometimes it's a combined income of your salary plus your rent, etc. But usually the bank would not allow you to borrow more than 7 times of that income. But to be honest, and it's really interesting, I did a lot of numbers over the years. We always circled around that figure anyway. But I feel like because the bank has now, the government has made it official, it sounds scarier than it was. I still have a lot of investors that are buying and not getting affected by DTI. Or just be like Carl and just work 2 or 3 shifts and bring home some more money. So the last point that I want to cover off tonight, I hope you guys are still with me and I haven't lost any of you. Why do you need a team? So mortgage advisor, obviously me, will point you in the right direction. We'll do the numbers for you. We'll calculate how much are you actually able to spend, how much you can go shopping with before you even start shopping. So we sit down, we do your numbers, we do your calculations. Make sure you have a good lawyer in place as well. Start building a team, because if you want to do this professionally, if you want to do this seriously, if you have a goal of having 3 or 4, 10 properties, you got to have a good team behind you. If you don't have a good team, it will not make your job easier. So you got to have a good mortgage advisor, good lawyer, accountant, absolutely important, because if you don't have a good accountant, you will make a mess of your numbers if you try to do it yourself. And then IRD will come knocking on your door and say, hey, you haven't paid up tax, please pay up. And this is where I've seen things go wrong for a few people, and they come to me a little bit too late, wanting to borrow money to pay off tax, etc., because they've decided to cut corners, and unfortunate things haven't gone well for them. And as I mentioned before, property manager. So this is the 4 key people you need if you want to start your journey on how to buy a house. So I hope that through this presentation, as you're sitting here, you're wondering, what am I able to lend? Where can I get the information on property, investment goals, etc.? Should you, self-manage, engage a property manager? I hope through this, I have taught you something new. I hope you've learned something new. You would know how to calculate your equity now. You'll know how to calculate your returns. Budget is essential. So if you don't have a budget right now, please go away, get a budget in place. And also understand how working with a team, absolutely essential, because if you don't have the right team in place, it will have an effect on you in the long run. And just to recap for you why I'm qualified to give you advice. Obviously, for those that know me, know that I've worked in the bank. For those that don't know me, guys, my journey started in the bank about 13 years ago. And that taught me the basics, absolute basics and foundation of money, what is money and what to do with that money. After leaving the bank, I bought my own franchise of Mike Perot. And I've been an advisor, top performing advisor for the last 6 years. Over the last 12, 13 years of my career, I've helped over thousands of people to get on the ladder, whether to buy their first home or, second, third, fifth, 10th home, etc. And over the years, I had over 11 properties, and I've learned a lot from new builds. I've built 3 properties as well. I'm currently sitting in my latest new build. And I've learned a lot through that experience. So I can try to help you with the advice that I have that's coming from experience. That's not just coming from me reading a book and telling you. Because what you'll find is a lot of bankers out there or other advisors you go to, they don't even have one property, or they may have only one property, but not even 2. So how can they advise you on how to get on a ladder if they don't have a second property or third property, etc.? So this is just for you to know. But my services don't just stop there. I also do insurances for my clients and help out with business loans or personal loans. And actually, interestingly enough, just the last week, I've done few loans for health issues as well. So I have a few clients that needed urgent money for health issues. And we can put that on your mortgage as well. So if you need an urgent surgery and you don't want to wait on a public list, we can do that. And to prove a point, I was talking to another lady today, and she didn't know I could do those loans. She's paying 19% on that health loan that she got through a company that she thought was helping her to get a health loan. So please don't be fooled. Go and talk to a professional before you make any drastic decisions. But exciting news that happened this month. I've launched my own podcast. So if you're out there wanting to learn more, if you haven't heard of my podcast yet, please come and join me. Listen up. Every Thursday we release a new episode. I'm hoping to increase that to a couple of episodes a week, but at the moment there are a couple of really good ones out there. The first one actually with the property manager. So please go in, listen up, and share along, because if you share, that will share my message across of helping more people to get on the ladder. And if you want to get in touch with me, I've got WhatsApp. For those that have WhatsApp, scan that through. That will take you straight to my phone. And for those that haven't joined my community yet, I also have launched a community on Facebook. So this is something I want to build towards engaging community that will share proper advice, proper experience, real experience of what happened in their home owning journey. So if you haven't joined yet, please go ahead, join me in. Would love to see you there. You can ask me questions there, and I'll start popping in live there a little bit more. So exciting part is it's question time. So ask me anything. Let's go. Cool. Right. I hope you guys enjoyed that. Hope you learned something new today. should you have your new rental loan with another bank? Absolutely valid question. Thank you for that. Look, if you've got available equity in Bank A, we can borrow your available equity here in Bank A, and we can go to Bank B and borrow the rest. I like to diversify. At one point, I had loans across 5 different institutions. Did my head in, remembering which bank had which mortgage and which property. But absolutely worth it, because as you start selling, buying, the banks don't have full control of one property, of all properties. You know, they only have one property on hand. So if you sold that one, oh well, that mortgage is paid off, and whatever cash you've got left, you can repurpose that for the next property. But if your bank has 2 properties on file and you've sold one, they will actually pay off the whole loan and you will be left with no cash. And as we know, cash is king. So absolutely, if you can diversify your portfolio and go to different banks, this is something I help with a lot to my clients. Absolutely can do. Cool. Okay. That's interesting. We've got a couple of questions coming in here. Can a non-bank go outside of the LVR rules? Yes, thank you. This is something I haven't covered off. We also deal a lot with non-banks. So non-banks are the ones that charge you slightly higher, right? But yes, we can go up to 20% deposit with the non-bank. So for those that are struggling with equity with the main bank, they may only have 20%, but they want to buy an older property, we can absolutely go to non-bank lender. Thank you, Jim. That was a really good question. Hamish, is it best to calculate rental yield on the price you paid for a house or what it is worth now to account for opportunity cost? Really good question as well. Normally, you would go with what the house is worth now. But then, I mean, if you just bought it, it will be worth very similar. So you go with what's now, but then over time, you just continue to calculate what rent you're getting. So just keep increasing the rent really to get a better yield return. Hopefully that helped your question. While you guys are asking me these questions here, I'll just quickly jump on YouTube and have a look if there are any questions there. Thank you. Awesome. For those that are interested, I am planning to run a webinar on non-bank lenders as well. And let me know if you're keen. If you are on my mailing list, awesome. If you're not, can you please email me to add you in, because legally we can't just steal your details and keep bombarding you with emails. So if you do want to be on my mailing list, please email me and I'll add you to my mailing list so you know when the next webinar is coming out. That would be great. Awesome. Well, I promised not to keep you guys too long. It's been an hour since I've been talking. This is probably the longest I've ever talked. You've been a really good crowd. Thank you. I hope you learned something. And if you've got any friends that are also keen to learn, don't know, you should this weekend at a barbecue, ask them what's the yield and how do you calculate the yield. See what they tell you. And if they don't know, you can teach them something or send them my way. Fantastic. Thank you guys so much. Have a wonderful night. It was awesome to have you all here. Thank you for your support.